Hi. This is my history journal number 1 for Dr. Pacholl. I hope that's I don't know how to pronounce her name still. I'm so sorry. So this is basically my rendition of how America became America, or how it was settled, at least. This isn't exactly the direction I would have taken if I had done a traditional essay, and after I'd already written my whole outline, I actually looked in depth at the assignment, and I realized I don't think I did this right. But if I'm gonna be wrong, I'm gonna be wrong confidently. So, obviously, before the white man, invaded, the Native Americans were originally the people who inhabited this land, and they were surviving. I'm not sure I would say they were thriving, because they were really focused on food first, because no food equals no life. I mean, they had it down, they were making jewelry and stuff. Then, the Europeans, and they were like, whoa, there's this land here, and obviously no one important is living here, so I think this is my land now. That's my land. And they all the Europeans wanted to claim it. France and Spain. I'm looking at you. And the Dutch, I guess. But England also wanted their share. They wanted part of this new world. So they put people on a boat, and they sailed across the ocean to this island. This island is called Roanoke, and it was an immediate failure. And within less than a year, they had to jump ship and go back. And then they decided, let's try again. What could possibly go wrong a second time? So they loaded up and excuse me, I've got the numbers. 91 men, 17 women, and 9 children. I point that out because I think that ratio is a little weird. There's so many men and so little women and children. I think they intended to go back for more people, but it didn't go very well. That one guy, I don't know his name. I can't remember his name. The main guy, the ship guy, they needed more supplies or something, so he was like, okay, I'm gonna go. You guys stay here. I'm gonna go get more stuff back in England. So he sails back to England, and it just so happens that the Spanish Armada, attacks. I think the Armada is the fleet itself, not the event. But, so, England is under attack. And this guy, he's like, yo, I gotta go back to my people in this strange new land. And, that's not right. And Queen Elizabeth, she was like, do you see what's going on here, dude? No, you can't go back. You can't, I'm sorry, you're stuck here. So, eventually, a year or two later, 1590 exactly, he goes back across the ocean, and he gets there, and they're all gone. Oopsies. Oops, they're all gone. The word Croatian, nope. Croatoan. I've only ever read that word. I've never said it out loud. Croatoan was carved into a tree and a sign, I think. And everyone had just kind of disappeared. No one knows. It's a spooky mystery. I mean, they probably either just moved or integrated with the natives or died. But that's boring. I think conspiracies. I think they contracted a zombie virus that turned them into cannibalistic, violent creatures, and they all killed each other, like in that one episode of Supernatural. And then, per usual, the English found a way to capitalize off this land that they found, and so they created the Virginia Company of London to try to successfully colonize Virginia. So they took a bunch of people who know absolutely nothing about farming or woodwork or anything really, and sent them to make Jamestown. And guess what? Guess what happened? Most of them died within a year. Surprising, right? Third time. They're really bad at colonizing new land. They had no food. They didn't know how to grow food. They had no farmers, so they were left to cannibalize poor Jane. Let's have a moment of silence for poor Jane. Okay, moment over. And they were just having a miserable time. And there was another war between the natives and the English. Again, are we surprised? I mean, I would be angry too if someone just came in my dorm and was like, "Oh, I live here now." No, you don't. Go away. I mean, and I think Pocahontas' marriage was actually part of the peace treaty for that. I'm not sure. So, at some point, the natives had showed the Europeans, the English, tobacco, how to grow tobacco. And the English, when they saw how much tobacco could be grown, their eyes turned into little dollar signs, and they started, like, evilly rubbing their hands together, comically. And they did what they do best, and they found a way to make the most money off of it as possible. As usual. And that was with indentured servitude. And, you know, in theory, I guess maybe it doesn't sound that bad, but I mean, you know, you don't have any money to move here. I do, so maybe you can come work for me for free, and then you get your own land here, because you're already here. But obviously, rich people have zero regard whatsoever for those beneath them, so they were horrifically mistreated during their servitude. Indenturement. They were beat. Their service could be extended for, like, literally any reason that they could come up with. And women were really restricted. Guess what happened when they got pregnant? What happens when a woman in servitude gets pregnant? She gets let go? No! She gets time added onto her service for the 10 months of being non-productive. No maternity leave for you. Actually, most servants died before they even saw a possibility of freedom. But while all this is happening in the colonies, back in England, in London, in a pub, there's this guy. His name is Pacholl or something, and for some reason, he can't read. And he's having a hard time choosing whether or not he should go to this new land in Virginia. So, he had these people tell him about the pros and cons, and he was told about how, you know, the early settlers, the explorers, had made it seem like this paradise, you know, George Percy and his giant strawberries. But in the other guy, in Richard Freethorn? In Richard's ladder, he's having an absolutely abysmal time. Everyone is diseased and starving, and they're scared of the natives because they have to fend them off, and he got his coat stolen, and the little asshole that took it wouldn't even tell him where it was when he died. That's so petty to me. Like, just tell, you don't need the jacket anymore if you're dead. Give it back to him. Anyway. Oh yeah, and then there's Bacon's Rebellion.
Bacon.
And the rich people decided that we can't use white indentured servants anymore. They're too privileged. They think they have rights. So let's move just straight up slavery. Which was more cost effective anyway. Why didn't we think of this sooner? Moving on. So, back in England, things are heating up. King Henry VIII, he has a wife, but he wants a different wife, but he's not supposed to do that. The Pope said, no, you can't get a divorce and get married again. That's un-Catholic-like. So, King Henry threw a tantrum, and he created the Church of England with the act of supremacy, and with the act of submission, he was basically like, now you guys have to be loyal to me and not the Pope. And 6 wives later, he died, and Elizabeth became the queen. And she was basically like, do whatever you want in private behind closed doors, but in public, you just gotta, pay taxes to me and respect me and stay loyal to me in public. And everyone was really confused because, this guy was telling them to do this, this lady's telling them to do this. What do we do? Tell me how to think. Everyone's kind of confused, but the Puritans were like, they were angry. Anglicans are sinners. The government is corrupt. We must not celebrate Christmas. We must not sing, nor dance, nor drink on Saturday night. No, we must leave. We must leave immediately. So, the separatists separated to the Netherlands initially, but that didn't work out. So they went to Plymouth with its stupidly pathetic rock. I don't get the hype of the rock. It's like this big. Anyway, they sailed too far north initially, and they were like, let's just say we're supposed to be here with the Mayflower Compact. We're supposed to be here. The only other significant thing about Plymouth, other than its stupid rock, is the first Thanksgiving, which, according to Pacholl, I'm pretty sure you said this in class, I think, it's one of the only times the natives and the English were like, they got along. And then some of the Puritans went slightly north and settled Boston. And another John Winthrop, another John, he was all, this place is a city on a hill. Excellent observation, sir. This is a holy community. This commonwealth will have a covenant with God. And they intended to make a godly society, but they accidentally kind of made a hellscape. Back in England, let's go back to England real quick. Old man Pacholl is back in the pub, wondering if maybe Boston is the place to go. Virginia didn't work out. It wasn't the right place for him. But maybe this is. Or maybe not. Basically, if you're accused of being a witch, you die. If you curse, blasphemy, you die. If you're not a Christian or do anything not Christianly, you don't die, but you are banished. If you commit adultery with a married person, you will die. If you only commit fornication with a single woman, you either marry her, pay a fine, or get beat. If you're drunk, like in public, 10 shillings is that, which I feel like isn't that bad. And then, for this final one, I think I should just read it outright, because it is just wonderful. If any child or children above 16 years old and of sufficient understanding shall curse or smite their natural father or mother, he or they shall be put to death. As you do. Pacholl isn't going to Boston either, unfortunately. Roger Williams, Anne Hutchinson. What do they have in common? They were both banished to, let's say it with me now, New Hampshire. That doesn't sound right. I don't... Hey, hang on. I've just been informed it is in fact Rhode Island and not New Hampshire. So let's try that one more time. They were both banished to, say it with me now, Rhode Island! Yay! They both had views the leaders didn't like. Roger didn't believe in taking land from the natives. He thought that there should be like an actual legally binding agreement and document. He did, however, believe in separation of church and state because he believed that the state would corrupt the church. He's totally correct, by the way. And he also believed in toleration. And he was just too radical for 1690s Boston. So he was thrown out. Anne Hutchinson, however, was a woman, and I think that's her first problem, I guess. But she also said, you're saved by faith alone, so God doesn't care if you follow laws or listen to your ministers. You're already saved. And the ministers didn't exactly appreciate her telling people not to listen to them. Or, she didn't say don't listen to them, but they didn't appreciate her insinuating that the people shouldn't listen to the government. So, she was also thrown out. Those crazy Rhode Islanders, am I right? And then, there's the Quakers. Get those hippies out of my face! The Quakers aren't important, but you know what is important? King Philip's War. Native Americans are fed up with these crazy colonists taking their land and forcing these treaties upon them and, being colonized. So, the youngsters in the tribes, they were very upset. And they were like, yo, King Philip, a.k.a. Metacomet, a.k.a. Chief of the Wampanoags, Womps. Let's beat these guys up so they get the hell out of here. So they fought for like a year, and I don't really remember how it ended. I think Metacomet, King Philip, I think he died. But a lot of Native Americans were not given the mercy of death. No, in fact, they were sold into slavery in the West Indies. They couldn't be kept in America because they would just escape because they, know the land because it's their land. Crazy concept, I know. So that's not very good for them, I guess. This war starts, like most other wars, with another smaller war. The French and Indian War, aka the 7 Years' War. That wasn't actually 7 years. It was more like 9 years. Or 10, I don't remember. We're not actually going to get into the specifics of that war. But the thing to get from all this is that England is in massive debt. Like, massive debt. Like, England is broke, homie. And so, the colonists in America are expected to pay for this war and try to get them out of debt. But they don't want to pay it. They're like, that's a lot of money, and we don't want to, we really don't want to pay that tax. So, and I think, like, baseline, this is really what kind of started the American Revolution, or shaped it up, because this is where they start to kind of, with each other, and start to realize how they want different things for themselves. And the whole financial struggle really just showcased how independent the colonists wanted to be. And how they pretty much wanted to break up with England, but they still wanted to stay friends, We're still English, we're just not English with you. And they were like, no, we're not going to pay those taxes. But we are English citizens, yes. No. So, in the aftermath of the war, English passed the Sugar Act, which was a higher tax on imported sugar. And basically, the colonists, they didn't pay that. They just kind of smuggled the sugar in. And apparently, John Hancock, I think was what you said, was a great smuggler. I don't remember exactly who you said in class it was, but his name is John, so it has to be right. It has to be correct, because his name is John. And everyone's name is John in history, American history. Then, English was like, okay, this isn't working. So now, we're going to tax that paper money that the colonists decided. You can't use paper money anymore. That's not going to happen. That's worthless over here. So when you pay us in paper money, you're not actually getting any money. Like, that it just doesn't work. And the colonists, they were not happy. And then England decided to just tax all printed material. Newspapers, legal documents, playing cards, pamphlets, everything. This is when the colonists kind of decided that they had enough. Enough is enough. They started to riot at that dang Liberty Tree. And were hanging like voodoo dolls of people up on those trees. And the English were like, what is wrong with you? Stop doing this. So they decided to pass the Declaratory Act, which basically was like, you know, we say what you do. We kind of own you, like, for real. Like, you know, what we say goes, okay? And they also passed the Townshend Acts. Townshend? Townsend. I think it's Townsend. Which tax a lot of things. Namely, tea. British people love their tea, so this is what really sparked the debate over taxation without representation. And from the English's point of view, the Americans treated the tax like an optional thing. Like they only paid it when they wanted to. They didn't pay it enough. They were just kind of like, here's what we got. And so the English were like, okay, well, if you're not going to pay your taxes, then you don't really have a say in the rules and the laws, because you're not contributing to your country. I mean, they were paying the same taxes as the other citizens in England, and I think they were actually getting less, or they were paying less than the other people in England. So, I mean, it was a better deal no matter what. But the colonists, they're like, hey, we're still English citizens, but like, we're gonna do our own tax thing since we're not being represented in England in court, and also, you're already making money off of us, so is it really fair to take more? Like, that's just being greedy. So, it was basically just kind of like a breakup letter to England. That wasn't the real breakup letter was the Declaration of Independence, but we're not talking about that right now. So this is really where the revolution begins to like form, and the webs start, you know, doing their thing, and people are like, we're not going to take this for much longer. You know, the colonists, you know, they've been on their own for so long, and they just kind of want to separate completely now. I think that's the most important factor, them realizing that they don't really want anything to do with the crown anymore, because they don't want to pay all these taxes. We're Americans. We don't want to pay taxes. And they've realized they're conflicting too much. That their interests just aren't the same anymore, and now they need to leave. So, there's one thing I haven't talked about yet. I don't know if you caught it when we were talking earlier, but I said nothing about the Salem witch trials. That's because talking about it now. Well, previously, I don't think I actually knew a lot of details about the Salem witch trials. I mean, it takes place in Salem. Women were accused of being witches and, you know, burned at the stake or hanged, and if you float, you're a witch. If you drown, you're not a witch, but you're dead, so oops. Um, so basically, these young girls, they started acting out, and it just wasn't in their character at all to be acting. They were being aggressive, and they were running around and screaming, and their parents were just like, I don't know why they're acting like this. So, and they thought they were sick, so they called up the physician, and the physician is like, I don't know what's going on with them either. So they called a priest, possibly, and the priest was like, witchcraft. So they figured out it was witchcraft, and so now this is a crime. This isn't an illness, this is a crime, and someone will pay for it. And that someone is a local slave who was very in touch with her roots and, traditional things that the white people don't like. So her name is Tituba. I think that's how you pronounce it. So they were like, did you do the witchcraft? And she was like, no, I I didn't tell the girls about the witchcraft. And eventually, she had nothing to lose. She's already a slave. What else was she gonna do? So she was like, fine, yes, I did tell them, like, this is how you can see who you're gonna marry in the future, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. But so, the people were like, oh my god, it's a witch, it's an actual witch. You're in trouble. But also, witches, hear me out now, witches tend to work in covens. So, lady, who are you working with? And Tituba was like, these women? This starts a mass hysteria of witch accusations. So, in order to be accused, you're going to need evidence. And then some of that evidence includes a confession with other evidence, 2 witnesses, an inability to recite prayer, or certain physical abnormalities. But, anything can be anything if you look close enough or you look at the right angle, so there really isn't anything keeping anyone back from accusing someone else of being a witch. Most of those accused were women. Obviously, why wouldn't they be? When are women not evil creatures? Ever, apparently. Eventually, they were hung or crushed if you didn't want to confess, like that one lady, I think. Because witches needed to be, and I quote, exterminated and cut off. Over 400 people were accused, and only 19 or 20 were killed. I think it was 19 were hung or hanged. I don't know what the past tense of that is. And one was crushed with the rocks. I don't know how I would want to go. Honestly, both of those kind of suck. But I think this mass hysteria is really interesting because, especially because the behaviors in those children, they had other explanations. I think you said in class one day, I think you brought this up, that one girl, one of the girl of the governor or whatever, or the cousin girl, she had just been through something really traumatic. I think she had seen her parents die, and she's just, experiencing PTSD. None of this had to happen because those behaviors had other explanations, and I don't have a conclusion. I don't have a conclusion right now. So, I don't think I did this right, but, I had fun doing it. I hope you had fun watching this and experiencing it.